Hello everybody and welcome to On My Watch List, the show all about photography on YouTube. Each week we're going to share 3 videos with you that we think should be on your wish list. Now, as usual, I'm not alone. I am joined by my co-creator, my co-conspirator, my strike partner, if you like. He is the Gary Lineker to my Peter Beardsley. He is the Teddy Sheringham to my Alan Shearer. It is, of course, Julian Baird. Hi, Jules.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks, mate. Now, I use a little bit of a football theme. A bit of English, famous English striking partners there.
Yes, so I'm going to immediately pull you up on that one.
You're Scottish.
So I don't mind 1 English football team reference, but 2 and no reference to Scotland.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Unacceptable, my friend.
And you're not much of a football fan either, are you, really?
Oh, no, I used to be. When I lived in Glasgow, I was a Rangers season ticket holder for many, many years.
Were you? Christ,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd fancy going to Rangers with my accent.
Oh, no, you'd be fine. I went to Celtic Park a couple of times as well for an away game. We've probably lost half of Glasgow by now already. I'm not sure how many people watch from Glasgow, but half of them have immediately turned off.
Absolutely, yeah. Good show we got lined up for you today. 3 really good videos.
Oh, yeah, we got some crackers there.
Belters, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really good ones. Some long ones. So,
yeah, they were. They were quite long.
I think they're really interesting. I think we've kind of lucked out this week. I think.
Absolutely, and thank goodness you finally had your hair cut.
Yes, literally this morning. I've only had it cut, so I've trimmed the beard back quite a bit as well. So yeah, I should look a bit younger and a bit fresher faced.
Fantastic. Well, anyway, let's crack on with things, and let's introduce today's guest presenter. He is a photographer, a YouTuber, and a scientist. He's also one half of my favourite YouTube husband and wife team. It's coming live from our Oxford studio. It is, of course, Dr. Sam Bose. Hello, Sam.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Very good, thanks, mate.
Hey, Sam.
So let's cut straight to the chase. You are a bona fide official doctor, aren't you?
Not a medical doctor, but
No.
an artificial doctor. Yes, PhD.
PhD. Bit like Ross Geller from Friends. He wasn't a proper doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm not
what's your,
quite
what
as
is your,
obsessed with dinosaurs, but
he was. Yeah. What's your specialist field then, mate?
I'm a cardiovascular physiologist.
Get that? Did you know that, George?
Tumbleweed.
I didn't. I know Sam had a doctorate, and I know no doctorates. They don't dish those out to anybody, so it doesn't matter what it's in. It's impressive.
I don't know. I think they probably skipped the criteria when they gave it to me. But
He's being modest.
I'm there somewhere.
He's being very modest. So you've got a proper job.
For the time being, yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how's the channel going, Sam? Going well?
Yeah, it's okay. So we had quite a quiet year last year. So we moved from Bristol to Oxfordshire. As you guys know, I love to photograph mountains, and it turns out we don't have many mountains in Oxfordshire. So I've kind of spent the last year, I guess, just trying to get to grips with the local landscape that we have around here. It's been fantastic for Hannah, though, because Hannah's primarily a wildlife photographer. So there's loads of great wildlife opportunities around here. And yeah, I feel like I'm finally sort of getting to grips with this local landscape, particularly what with lockdown over the last few months or so. Just having to stay local and sort of trying to explore what there is locally. I've been finding that quite a sort of creative stimulus in a way to try and find those compositions around here. So yeah, we've had a few videos out recently. We're starting to try and ramp up the video content on the channel again, and it's all going well.
Good, fantastic to hear that. And you're actually not far from where I was brought up now, are you?
No, not at all.
So I'm originally from Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire. My dad lives in Tame, which is only just down the road from you now.
Yeah. So we're just sort of on the edge of the Cotswolds, which is absolutely beautiful around here. It's a stunning location.
And I hear you met up with a buddy of mine not so long ago.
Yes, Ian. Yeah, Ian Spicer. Yeah, we met up with him last weekend. Now that the lockdown's eased, we'd meant to meet up with him before the lockdown, but obviously we had to put everything on hold. But he's a fantastic wildlife photographer, so yeah, it was really nice to meet up with him. He's a great guy.
Ian, I did a collaboration with Ian at the beginning of the year, just before lockdown happened, actually. It was good to see him. Very, very good friend of mine. First met him on my very first workshop that I ever ran. Lovely fella. Anyway, let's crack on with this then, shall we? Let's get straight to the video. So, Jules, would you like to introduce your video for this week?
Yeah, so this week's video, or my selection, is a video by a guy called Sean Tucker. It's called photograph what makes you happy. I think ignore the gatekeepers and label makers. This is an absolutely fascinating video, and it's very typical. I mean, Sean does a lot of stuff on his YouTube channel. I'm almost reluctant to say this, but he's known for his street photography, but the whole point of this video is not about putting photographers or putting yourself in boxes or listening to how people pigeonhole your photography. But it's well worth subscribing to his channel, and he's really good at articulating sometimes complex themes. I mean, he does photograph things, and he does these more sort of well-rounded pieces where he's talking about aspects of photography, like trying to photograph what makes you happy. So in the video, he's talking about how sort of social media, I guess, look at your photographs and then try and pigeonhole you or put up barriers to say this is not this type of photograph. If you want to be known as, say, a portrait photography, your portraits have got to be X, Y, and Z, or you've got to do all these various things. So it's talking about all these kind of gatekeepers, and he makes a very interesting analogy that he says the gatekeepers or the people that pretend to be the gatekeepers or the make up these apparent rules about what constitutes a certain type of photograph aren't actually the masters of their photography. You very rarely hear about the top end photographers trying to pigeonhole these things. He says it's a bit like the middle management layer. It's the people that are often insecure in their own types of photograph, and he reams off quite a few examples of where people have tried to sort of label his photography, and he says, I am known for certain types of photograph, but I never want to put myself in a box where it says, I'm a street photographer, because I'm not. I'm a photographer. And I think a lot of the things he talks about are probably, particularly us as sort of content creators, have been subject to, you get things in the comments, well, that's not a street photograph, or you haven't done this right, or you should do that, or that doesn't constitute that. And he goes into quite a bit of detail about some of the scenarios and the aspects of this, and he does it. He's got a great way of communicating that very clearly, and he's done a few videos like this over the last few weeks. It's really resonated with me, and it's one of these videos I think that every photographer should watch, particularly if you've had these types of comments where people have said, say, that's not that type of photograph, or in order to do this, you have to achieve X, Y, and Z. What did you think of it, Chris?
Well, I mean, I love Sean's videos. He has this knack of being able to put into words my own personal experiences far better than I ever could. And I think that's what's the beauty of Sean's channel, and I absolutely love it. And you and I have discussed this over the years, and you know very well that I've had problems with gatekeepers myself, and you know exactly who I'm talking about in that, don't you, as well. My own personal feelings are, of course, that if we allow these label makers and these gatekeepers to actually impact our approach to photography, then they've won. What do you think, Sam? Is this something that you've had problems with yourself?
It's not something I've had problems with, but it's something which certainly I completely agree with. So I have to say with Sean, one of the things I love about Sean's videos, I believe he had a background as a pastor, and his way of talking and delivering videos like this, I'm a massive fan of it. As a teacher and as a presenter, I love his style. But I think I completely agreed 100% with the message here, because the way I see it, I think if for a photographer to start criticizing another photographer, and I think that there are a lot of these, as he puts it, middle management type photographers who do that, it highlights a certain insecurity that they may have in their own sort of photography, or maybe they're trying to earn a living. But ultimately, what Sean was highlighting is that you have to sort of try and work out what their angle is, and that often they're trying to convince you that you are not a good enough photographer, so that you'll go out and buy their course or do a workshop with them. And I think that's a really important thing, particularly for people first starting out in photography, to understand, because the proper sort of, I guess, high-end photographers that we respect the most, you won't see them doing that. And it's because I think photography is an art form. So as soon as you start labeling things or trying to fit things into boxes or sort of package them as being a particular form, or you have to do this to be a landscape photographer. You have to use a tripod, you have to use filters. As soon as you start to do that, you're kind of, it starts to become formulaic. And I think the best photographs, or certainly the photographs I like the most, are the ones which break those molds. It's the most creative photographs which don't necessarily follow those guidelines. So for me, it really struck a chord what he was saying, and I completely agreed. And also, I think we should all be called light architects from now on. I loved that phrase.
I thought that was a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that was absolutely brilliant.
It's funny you should say that, Sam. I mean, he did kind of half joking about, that I'm not a photographer, I'm a light architect. I think someone had said that to him. But what got me thinking there was one of the takeaways from this video was my own definition of what I am. I've always thought, I'm a landscape photographer. But he says, don't pigeonhole yourself, because am I just a landscape photographer? I mean, I bought a macro lens this year, so I'm going to start doing macro photography. So do I need to call myself a macro and landscape photographer? But then am I also an outdoor photographer? So am I a macro landscape outdoor photographer? It all becomes, should I actually just call myself a photographer and stop calling myself a landscape photographer? I mean, did you guys have a think about that?
Well, I was going to say, one of the points I was going to raise is, of course, that you two both practice at least two separate genres of photography. George, you didn't mention that you used to do a lot of music photography, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah, I did.
And Sam, of course, you do a fair amount of wildlife photography yourself.
Yeah.
I am only a landscape photographer. I don't know anything about any other genre of photography whatsoever. And for me, and George, you picked up on this when I last spoke to you, it's probably even worse than that, because there's only one landscape that really inspires me, and of course you will know what that is. And so I don't feel necessarily pigeonholed by the term or the label landscape photographer. But what I have found recently, I've started to do a lot of shooting handheld and exploring landscapes and taking a less organised approach to my photography, and a lot of my work has been labelled as being snapshots, purely because I don't use a tripod, which of course is absolutely ridiculous. So that's been kind of my experience of that.
And this is exactly what Sean's talking about, all these people that like to pigeonhole and box and all the things that we discussed. So I think if you haven't watched this video, this is one is well worth watching, particularly if you're maybe feeling a little bit not insecure about your photography, or you're not sure, or you may be getting some negative feedback, or even if you are comfortable in all your photography. I think he has such a good way of communicating. It's well worth anyone's being on anyone's watch list.
Absolutely. I always feel better after watching a Sean Tucker video.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, good show.
Okay, well, moving on to other YouTubers that make me feel better. Sam, do you want to introduce your video for this?
Yeah, sure. So the video I chose was by Oddbjorn Ostervik. Apologies, Oddbjorn, if I struggle with your name a little bit there. But Oddbjorn, I mean, I could have chosen any of Oddbjorn's videos, really. He's one of my favourite YouTubers. He's certainly, I think, one of the best storytellers on YouTube. He's a fantastic filmmaker, and he's a brilliant photographer. And so I was really keen to choose one of Oddbjorn's videos. The one I've gone for was his 1000 Steps video. And the reason I chose this, there are a couple of reasons why I particularly like this video. The first is that I'm a big fan of these kind of challenges. It sort of comes back to sort of what we were talking about with Sean's video in many ways, of doing different things and not being restricted to doing things in the same way. What I like about setting these sort of challenges, and I must admit I've not done the 1000 Steps challenge myself, but I've done similar things in the past, is that it really helps to stimulate your creativity. It forces you to try something a little bit different to what you normally would. And I think that can only really be a good thing to help develop your own photography. And even if it doesn't work out well, just the fact that you've gone through that creative process is a great learning experience. But the other thing is that in this challenge, essentially he had to limit himself to walking 1000 steps from his front door, setting his tripod down and taking one exposure within 3 minutes of setting the tripod down. And for me, trying to get to grips with my local landscape lately around here, especially during lockdown, over the last 3 months, most of us haven't been able to travel very far. So a lot of us, I think, have been having to focus on trying to find inspiration in our own local landscapes. And so I thought that Oddbjorn's challenge which he set himself here really resonated with me, because it demonstrates that wherever you are, there's probably somewhere nearby within a very short distance from your home where you can actually take a reasonable photograph. It might not be the sort of photograph that you would normally go out and take, but there's some kind of inspiration there right on your doorstep that can help inspire you to take an image that you'll be happy with. It's certainly something that I would quite like to try doing myself at some point. And the other thing actually which I really liked about this video was that he actually did that trip in one take. And that's something which I really like, because I think you guys probably have the same thing, where if you're going out and you're filming yourself doing a photography trip, it tends to come out a little bit polished, because you might take 3 or 4 takes to do something. You'll leave a lens cap on, maybe that's just me that does that. But when you're filming it in one take, you've got that raw kind of reality of what it is to actually go out and do photography. And it's certainly something that I would like to do in my own videos at some point, is do something similar, because I think that it's important for people watching to get that kind of raw experience of what we're actually doing, and that it's actually, we're all in the same boat. We all do those mistakes. We all do those little we pick up the wrong filter, or we drop our tripod, or in my case I fall over, something like that. So I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, Oddbjorn, all 3 of the creators that we're going to feature in this week's episode, they're all superb video makers. And Oddbjorn, as you said, I mean, he is for me the best storyteller in our genre on YouTube. I absolutely love what he does, and supporting channels like Oddbjorn's was the reason why I wanted to create On My Watch List, and to share, you know, some of the very best that we see on YouTube. I think this is an excellent example of how putting limitations on your photography can really help you to focus. But going back to your point, Sam, you know, I mean, I think he makes it look so easy. Doing that in one take, you know, that shows that is a master at work as far as I'm concerned. Jules, is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love this video. I wasn't a subscriber. I didn't really know. I think you maybe mentioned him to me a couple of times.
Yeah, Oddbjorn and I've followed his channel for a long time, and I have to be honest and say that, you know, since I went full time, I haven't been watching YouTube at all. And Oddbjorn is one of those guys that I've fallen out of touch with a little bit. And you know, this week, watching these 3 videos has reminded me that I do need to make a lot more effort within the community and to touch base with some of these guys, because I miss them.
But yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons, you know, we do this show so we can hopefully share what we know about other YouTubers and share those with the people that watch this. But equally, this is quite exciting for me, because I found a channel that I've just subscribed to. I mean, I sat down, I watched, oh God, a 30-minute video, crikey, here we go. And I sat down and watched it, and he sat down, and I tell you, within about sort of 10 seconds of him talking, I was like, subscribe. He had me right there and then, and what I liked about it, you know, I found this really. He's sitting in his chair, and I thought it was an episode of Jack and Ori. For those that can remember that, I thought he was going to tell me a story, and I was going to fall asleep. So I thought it was going to be great. And the other thing I saw his hair, and he's got hair like me 12 hours ago. You know, I thought that was quite interesting. But the annoying thing was, this is something I wish I'd thought of. It's such a good challenge. And, you know, the filmmaking aside and how he executed and what he did was brilliant. But it's such an original and well thought out challenge. You know, people say, oh, let's do a challenge. Oh, let's do 50 mil. And yeah, it's all been done. Yep. This is a unique challenge. And, you know, he had some rules, but the rules are there to really help the challenge make it more interesting, not to be deliberately constrictive. You know, I just thought it was very well thought out. And then obviously you've got him going out, and how he managed to talk for 30 minutes as he did that one take, I thought was absolutely brilliant. And he got the shot, and it was exciting as he did the countdown timer. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant, and more than happy to subscribe, and I can't wait to see what else he comes up with.
Well, now you've subscribed to his channel, Jules, you're going to be absolutely hooked. You've got a lot of binge watching to do for the next few days. Yeah, really, really good stuff.
It's absolutely fantastic stuff from Oddbjorn there. Love his channel, really do. But let's move on to another channel that I really enjoy as well. We're going to talk about this week's viewer's choice, and it comes from none other than Simon Booth. And Simon has recommended the video Photographing the Orkney Islands After a Storm by Ewan Dunsmuir. And Simon says about the video, I have chosen this video because even now, after watching it many times, it still has the power to make me laugh with tears of joy and also tears of great emotion. For anyone who loves landscape photography and feels passionate about the landscape, this is a must-see. Now, Ewan is a photographer that's based in New Zealand, and the video tells the story of his return to the Orkney Islands, where he's originally from. Now, when we originally wanted to create this series, we wanted to deal with current videos. We wanted to kind of try and stay as up-to-date as possible. This video is actually 2.5 years old. But when Simon Booth tells you to watch a video, then you pay attention, and he's absolutely right about this. For me, it is an extremely powerful film. It's filled with emotion, and I was absolutely absorbed by it. Now, when we do these videos, when we do these films, we sit down and I watch the films and I make a lot of notes so that we have lots to discuss. And I have to confess, I was so taken by this video and so utterly consumed by it that I haven't made any notes. And so I'm going to hand over to Sam. And what did you think of this video, Sam?
Oh yeah, well, so I must admit, when I'd actually, before, when you first invited me on to do this, I originally had one of Ewan's videos in mind to recommend, and I was so pleased when I saw this video that Simon had already chosen it, because Ewan is absolutely one of my favourite YouTubers, but he's also one of my favourite photographers. I think his photography is absolutely beautiful. So he uses medium format cameras. He does these stunning panoramics with so much detail in them. And actually, when Hannah and I went to New Zealand last autumn, we were lucky enough to actually have some time to meet up with Ewan. So we've actually met him over in New Zealand, and he's also a fantastically great guy. So I was so pleased to see his video being chosen by Simon. For me, this video strikes quite a personal chord. So for those who don't know, I actually grew up not in Orkney, but actually within sight of Orkney in the northwest Highlands of Scotland. And so I completely related to that idea of going back to your old hometown in the Highlands of Scotland, which you've not visited for a while, and going back and doing photography. For me, that it makes me feel quite emotional. And one of the things that Ewan always captures so well in his videos is the drama and the mood. I think his method of delivery is superb. I love the reflectiveness of his style of presenting. But also he has this kind of dramatic, almost sort of ominous feel to his videos, which also suits that landscape superbly. And one of the things which he manages to do in his videos, which I think is, I don't know how he does it, but everything in it, from his voiceovers to his presenting style to the style of videography, they all also relate to the photographs that he takes. There's this kind of ongoing style that runs throughout, and I think he does such a great job of it. And the emotion that he captured of that moment. So if you watch the video, you'll see the reason he went back to Orkney was because his mother had died, so he was going back for that reason. And it must have been just such a hard experience to go through, to fly back from New Zealand and then go and visit this old town which you knew from your childhood. And he just captures the emotion of that, not just in the video but in the photographs as well. The photographs were absolutely stunning. I don't know, what did you guys think of his images?
Yeah, I really liked him actually, and it was quite interesting with his approach to taking these images. Obviously, he went back for that funeral, but it wasn't just about he'd go over there and while he was there, he would just capture some images because he happened to be in town. He talked very much about establishing a deeper connection with his homeland, and that really got me thinking. Is like when I go home, I take photographs and stuff like that. Do I have a deeper connection? Do I work to get a deeper connection? And I think that's what makes a difference, and that comes through in his photographs. Is he's not just going out to get the shots, but he's going out. He's trying to work out, the people and the land and the aspects of that, and what he includes in his photographs. And that way of working really kind of shines through in his photography. And but equally, and it was quite a powerful and sort of emotional video. But I still had a childish chuckle about the story about the village of Twat. So call me a child, but I still found that very funny.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you have to watch the video.
Yeah, you have to watch the video, absolutely. And it really is worth checking out, as are all three of the videos from this week. But that's really all we have time for this week. So this week we featured videos from Sean Tucker, Oddbjorn Austevik and Ewan Dunsmuir. If you would like to submit a video for the viewer's choice, then the details will be in the description below. I would like to thank this week's guest presenter for joining us, Sam Bose. Thank you very much for joining us, Sam.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm honoured.
Yeah, it was great to have you, Sam.
It's an absolute pleasure. Always nice to see you. I also want to say thanks very much to Julian. Julian does an awful lot of work behind the scenes in pulling this series together. So a big thanks to you, Jules.
No worries.
And finally, I'd like to say thank you very much to you all for watching. So thank you very much and goodbye from me.
Bye.
Bye.